everyone. If you're listening, I bet you're looking to speak English with more confidence.
Definitely a common goal.
For sure. And today, we're doing a deep dive into some tips specifically for beginners.
Sorry.
We're taking these from the podcast episode called How to Speak English Confidently. 15 tips for beginners. And
15 tips, that's quite a lot.
it is. But we're going to break it down for you.
Okay,
And there are some really great pieces of advice in here.
I'm sure.
For example, did you know that listening might actually be more important than speaking?
Oh, really?
Yeah, when you're first starting out.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Well, I'm ready to dive in.
Okay, great. So the first step that the episode suggests is starting small, like mastering basic phrases that you can use every day.
Okay, I like that.
Me too. It
Yeah.
seems manageable, right?
Right.
They give the example of, I'd like some coffee, please.
Simple but practical.
Exactly, and I think that's the key here.
Makes sense.
But I do think they could have gone a bit deeper.
Oh, how so?
Like maybe explaining that it's not just about any phrases, but choosing ones that are actually relevant to your daily life.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like if you're a student, for example.
Right.
Mastering phrases for classroom interactions could be more helpful than practicing something like, I'd like a coffee, please.
Totally makes sense.
Exactly. It's about making those small wins actually count.
Okay, I like that.
Okay, so then the episode goes on to emphasize listening even more so than speaking initially.
Why is that?
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
I mean, it makes sense, but
Yeah, but why?
I'm not sure.
So our brains are actually wired to acquire language through exposure.
Oh, wow.
Think about how babies learn to speak.
Yeah,
They spend months just absorbing sounds before they ever utter their first words.
it's true.
So it's the same with learning a new language.
Makes sense.
You need to immerse yourself in the sounds and rhythms of English before you can really confidently produce them yourself.
Right, like building up that foundation.
Yeah, exactly. It's fascinating how much goes on before we even open our mouths to speak.
It is.
Now, the source also mentions actively listening for pronunciation patterns.
Okay, what does that mean?
Yeah, that one kind of threw me off too.
Like, how do you actually do that?
So it's not just about passively hearing English, like having it on in the background.
Right.
It's about actively listening for how native speakers form sounds,
Yep.
the rhythm of their speech, the way they stress certain syllables.
Oh, I see.
So it's like training your ear to become a language detective,
Interesting, I like that.
noticing all the little details that make spoken English unique.
Makes you pay more attention.
Right, exactly.
So we're tuning our ears, we're starting small with relevant phrases. What comes next?
Well, no matter how small those steps are, consistency is key.
Of course.
And the episode suggests setting a daily speaking goal.
Okay.
Even just 5 minutes can make a difference over time.
Yeah, it's about making it a habit, right?
Exactly, building it into your routine.
Makes sense.
They also talk about recording yourself speaking English, which I've always found a bit awkward.
Yeah, I can see that.
Have you ever tried that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I still use this technique all the time, especially when I'm preparing for presentations.
Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Uh-huh. Well, it helps identify areas where your pronunciation could be clearer or where you might be stumbling over words.
Okay, like having an instant replay for your speech.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually a good way to put it.
It helps you catch those little things you might miss otherwise.
But now let's talk about something that I think everyone struggles with.
Okay, what's that?
Fear and mistakes.
Ugh, yeah.
How does the episode address this?
Well, I think this is where the episode really shines.
Oh, good.
It has a really refreshing perspective on mistakes, encouraging you to see them as learning opportunities.
It's so easy to get discouraged when you make a mistake.
It is.
But the episode actually says every time you make a mistake, you're one step closer to mastering the language.
I love that.
It's all about shifting to a growth mindset.
Right.
And that's where the power of positive self-talk comes in.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Instead of beating yourself up for errors, try reframing your thoughts.
Okay, so how do they suggest doing that?
They give a great example. They say, you can say, I'm improving every day versus I'm bad at English. Which one feels more empowering?
Definitely. I'm improving every day.
Right.
It's so much more positive.
Exactly. It's about focusing on the progress rather than the imperfections.
Okay, that's a good one.
And speaking of progress, the episode also talks about the importance of feedback.
That's a good one.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think seeking feedback without fear is absolutely crucial.
Yeah,
So many people avoid it because they're afraid of being judged.
it's true.
But constructive criticism is like gold.
I can see that.
It really pinpoints areas for improvement.
But I imagine it can be hard to know what to ask for.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any tips for getting the most out of feedback?
Be specific. Instead of asking generally, how was my English? Try something like, did I pronounce that word correctly?
Oh, good one.
Or was my sentence structure clear?
Yeah.
The more targeted your questions are, the more helpful the feedback will be.
That's really practical advice.
I hope so.
And speaking of being clear, the episode also emphasizes speaking slowly,
That's an interesting one.
both for clarity and confidence.
Why both?
Because when you're nervous, it's natural to rush your words,
Oh, I do that.
but that can actually make you harder to understand
It's true.
and increase anxiety.
Oh, wow.
So slowing down gives your brain time to process what you want to say, and it allows you to enunciate clearly,
Okay.
and it projects confidence,
Oh, interesting.
even if you don't feel it yet.
It's like a little trick.
Yeah, it's interesting how something as simple as slowing down can have such a big impact.
It really is.
Okay, we've talked about building a solid foundation, embracing mistakes, and the importance of feedback.
It's been quite a lot.
It has.
What's next?
Let's move on to some practical ways to enhance your practice.
Sound good?
The episode mentions a bunch of language apps.
Oh, yeah. I use those all the time.
Do any of them stand out to you?
Well, they list several popular ones. Duolingo, Babbel, HelloTalk.
I've heard of those.
They all have their strengths, but for real-time conversation practice, I find HelloTalk particularly effective.
Interesting. Why is that?
It connects you with native speakers for language exchange,
Oh, that's cool.
allowing you to practice your spoken English in a real-world setting.
That's a great way to apply what you've learned.
Right.
The episode also mentions watching English content with subtitles.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
How does that help?
It's a fantastic way to immerse yourself in the language.
Yeah.
They recommend starting with subtitles in your native language,
Okay.
then gradually transitioning to English subtitles as your comprehension improves.
Oh, that's smart.
It kind of bridges the gap between passive listening and active understanding.
So it's like training your brain to connect the spoken word with the written word.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's this technique called shadowing that sounds kind of intriguing.
Oh, yeah, shadowing.
I've heard of it.
It's not as complicated as it sounds.
Okay, good.
Shadowing involves choosing a short audio clip,
Okay.
maybe from a movie podcast or even a speech,
Makes sense.
and trying to mimic the speaker's pronunciation, tone, and rhythm as closely as possible.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I'm curious what makes this technique so effective.
Well, it helps you internalize the nuances of spoken English.
Okay.
By mimicking pronunciation and rhythm, you're training your mouth muscles to form the sounds correctly,
Oh, wow.
and you develop a more natural flow to your speech.
So it's like learning to dance by following the steps of a pro.
Exactly.
I love that.
Uh-huh.
The final tip the episode mentions is joining English conversation groups.
Oh, yeah, those can be really helpful.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a fantastic way to put your skills into practice and connect with other learners. You can search online for local groups or even find interest-based ones.
Oh, that's cool.
Like if you're a foodie, look for a conversation group focused on cooking or restaurants.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's all about finding ways to make learning English feel less like a chore and more like a fun, engaging activity.
I couldn't agree more.
Good.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from building a solid foundation to overcoming fear and enhancing your practice.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's one more crucial aspect we need to address: building confidence in real-life situations.
Right. That's where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly. We'll explore that and more in part 2 of this deep dive. See you there.
See you there. Welcome back to our deep dive into speaking English with confidence.
It's been quite a journey already.
It has
We've unpacked so many practical strategies from our source material.
lots of good stuff in there.
Definitely. But before we go any further,
Yeah.
I think it's time for a quick recap,
Okay, I'm with you.
just to highlight the most actionable takeaways so far.
Sounds good to me.
Let's distill those 15 tips down into the real golden nuggets.
Okay, the ones you can actually start using today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So from our building the foundation section, what's the one thing our listeners should really focus on?
I'd say it's about making those small wins count,
Oh,
like we were talking about before.
right.
Don't just pick any phrase to practice.
Okay.
Choose the ones you'll actually use every single day.
Good point.
Like, for example, if you love to cook,
Yeah.
mastering phrases like, "Can I have the recipe?" or "This tastes delicious,"
Yeah.
will make a much bigger difference
Right.
than just practicing something generic like, "Hello, how are you?"
Makes total sense.
Okay, good.
Now, what about overcoming fear and mistakes?
That's a big one.
It is. What's the most empowering takeaway from that section?
I'd say remember that shift to a growth mindset we discussed?
Oh, yeah.
That's key.
Is.
Every mistake is an opportunity to learn and grow.
Love that.
So instead of thinking, I'm bad at English,
Yeah.
try, I'm learning and improving every day.
It's such a simple change.
Right.
Yeah. But it makes a big difference.
It really does.
It's amazing how much of a difference a little change in perspective can make.
For sure.
And while we're on the topic of perspective, let's not forget about seeking feedback.
Oh, that's important.
It can be so valuable.
Totally agree.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think seeking feedback without fear is absolutely crucial.
Okay.
So many people avoid it because they're afraid of being judged.
It's true.
But constructive criticism can be so helpful.
It can.
It really pinpoints those areas where you can improve.
Right, but I imagine it can be hard to know what to ask for.
Oh, for sure.
Do you have any tips for getting the most out of feedback?
Be specific.
Okay, good one.
Instead of asking generally, how is my English?
Right.
Try something like, did my pronunciation sound natural there? Or was my grammar correct in that sentence?
Much better.
Yeah, and people are often much more willing to help than you might think.
So true.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to enhancing your practice.
Okay, love this part.
What technique really resonated with you from that section?
Oh, for me, it's definitely shadowing.
Oh, really?
The idea of mimicking native speakers to really absorb their pronunciation and fluency.
Right.
I mean, it's brilliant.
It is.
It's like having a personal language coach right there in your headphones.
I love that analogy.
I know, it's so cool.
Shadowing sounds incredibly effective.
It is.
And finally, for building confidence in real-life situations.
The real test.
It is. What's your top tip?
I'd say start with what you know.
Okay.
Like if you're passionate about a particular hobby,
Yeah.
use that to your advantage.
Oh, okay. How?
Practice talking about it in English,
Okay.
even if it's just to yourself at first.
Right.
The more you use English in a context that feels natural and comfortable to you,
Yeah.
the more confident you'll become.
It makes sense to ease yourself in
Exactly.
rather than jumping straight into those really complex conversations.
Right. It's like dipping your toes in the water before you dive into the deep end.
I like that.
Another great tip is to practice public speaking.
Oh, God.
Even if it's just in a small group of friends or fellow learners.
Public speaking can be terrifying.
It can be.
I used to get so nervous before presentations.
Me too.
Did you?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I used to get so nervous before presentations that my hands would shake.
Oh, no.
But I joined a Toastmasters group
Oh, nice.
and started small, giving short speeches to a really supportive audience.
Oh, that's good.
And gradually I worked my way up to larger audiences.
That's inspiring.
It really made a world of difference.
It shows that even the things that seem impossible
Yeah.
can be achieved with practice and perseverance.
Exactly. And it's not just about conquering the fear of public speaking.
Right.
It's about realizing that the confidence you build in one area of your life can spill over into others.
It's like a ripple effect.
Exactly.
Pushing past your comfort zone in English might also give you the courage to try new things,
It could.
take on challenges, or speak up for yourself in other areas of your life.
That's exactly it. And don't forget to celebrate every win,
Oh, yeah.
no matter how small.
It's a good one.
Each step forward, whether it's ordering a coffee in English
Yeah.
or giving a short presentation, it deserves to be acknowledged.
Celebrating those wins is so important for staying motivated
It is.
and reinforcing the belief that you're capable of achieving your goals.
Now, there's one last piece of advice from the episode that I think really ties everything together.
Okay, what's that?
It's all about finding ways to make learning English enjoyable.
I love that.
When you're having fun, it doesn't even feel like learning anymore.
It's true.
So explore different methods.
Okay.
Find what works best for you, and most importantly,
Yeah.
embrace the journey.
So we've covered the foundations. We've talked about overcoming fear. We've explored practical techniques. What's next on our deep dive?
We'll be wrapping up this episode in part 3 with a final thought-provoking question to leave you pondering.
Oh, I like that.
See you there.
See you there.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into speaking English with confidence.
It's amazing how quickly the time has flown by.
I know, right?
We've learned so much.
We have.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what's resonated most with you so far from all these tips?
That's a good question.
So much good stuff.
We've covered so much ground
Yeah.
from those initial steps to embracing mistakes as opportunities to learn.
Right.
We've really unpacked so much about confident communication.
Definitely. And before we wrap up,
Yes,
I want to leave you with one final thought.
I like that.
Something to kind of ponder as you continue your journey towards speaking English confidently.
Oh, I love that. What is it?
What if we connect this to the bigger picture?
Okay.
How does building confidence in English translate to other areas of your life?
That's a really interesting question.
I think so too.
It makes me think about how the skills we develop often have benefits that extend far beyond the initial area we learn them in.
It's true.
Like maybe it's not just about speaking English. Maybe it's about something bigger.
Exactly. When you push past that fear of speaking up in English, you're essentially strengthening a core skill.
Oh, okay.
It's confidence.
Great confidence, okay.
And that skill can be applied to all sorts of situations.
Oh, that makes sense.
So conquering those nerves in English could make you more confident in giving a presentation at work.
Oh, yeah.
Or speaking up in a meeting, or even just starting a conversation with someone new.
Wow, so it could really impact your whole life.
Precisely. It's like unlocking a superpower that goes way beyond just language.
That's such a good point.
I like to think so.
It's something I'm going to be thinking about a lot.
Me too.
Yeah.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be times you feel unsure, moments of doubt, maybe even some setbacks along the way.
That's true.
But the key is to keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
As you embark on this journey, we'd love to hear from you. What are some things that have helped you speak English confidently?
Yeah. Share your experiences, insights, or aha moments.
We're all on this journey together.
A community of learners supporting each other.
That's what the deep dive is all about. Thanks for joining us on this adventure, and until next time.
See you next time.
Keep diving deep and keep speaking your truth with confidence.